You've spent a lifetime on your knees, haven't you? The floorboards are worn, the silence is heavy, and your voice is hoarse from prayers whispered into the vast, indifferent dark. You've prayed for peace, for a sign, for a feeling of being seen, of being truly known and held. You've begged for rescue from your own mind, from the circumstances of your life, from the aching loneliness that seems to be the very marrow in your bones. And yet, nothing changes. The silence remains. The ache persists. So, you begin to bargain with the silence. You tell yourself stories to make it bearable. Maybe I'm not good enough, you reason. Maybe I haven't earned this peace. Maybe God is testing me, forging my spirit in this fire of neglect. You try to believe harder, pray longer, be purer. You build a cathedral of devotion in your heart, but you are the only one who ever attends the service, and the pews remain achingly empty. But what if the problem isn't the strength of your faith? What if it isn't your worthiness, your purity, or your devotion? What if the God you have spent your entire life praying to, the silent figure in the sky, doesn't exist? Not in the way you were taught, anyway. If that question sends a tremor through you, a cold drop in the pit of your stomach, then stay. This is a message not for everyone. It is not for the comfortable, the certain, or the unscarred. This is for the brave. It is for those who have screamed into the void and felt the unnerving echo of their own voice. It is for those whose faith has cracks running through it like a shattered mirror. This is for you, because what you're feeling is not the loss of faith. It is the beginning of a profound, terrifying, and sacred awakening. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung, a man who dedicated his life to mapping the vast, uncharted territories of the human soul, was not an atheist. He was, however, a profound critic of the God that many of us are handed in our childhood. He proposed a radical idea, that for many, the God they worship is not an external divine entity, but an internal psychic projection. It is a mirror we construct, piece by piece, from the fragments of our own lives. Think of it as a form of spiritual architecture. When you were a child, you had needs. You needed a father who was strong and steadfast, a mother who was unconditionally loving and nurturing, a protector who would stand between you and the terrors of the world. If those needs were not met, if your father was absent, your mother was critical, if you were left to fend for yourself, the psyche, in its infinite wisdom and desperation, does something remarkable. It creates a replacement. It builds a perfect parent in the heavens. You construct a God who is the ultimate father, the perfect mother, the unwavering protector you never had, precisely because you have known abandonment, judgment, and conditional love. This is not a failing. It is a masterpiece of survival. It is the soul's attempt to heal itself, to provide a source of comfort and stability where there was none. You didn't meet this God. You created him from the blueprint of your deepest unmet longings. This is what Jung called the God image. It is a powerful, organizing archetype within our unconscious, a container for all our hopes and fears. But here is the crucial distinction. The God image is not God himself. It is a reflection of our psyche, and the nature of that reflection is determined by what we hide from ourselves. This brings us to Jung's most vital concept for this journey, the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply everything within us that we have disowned, repressed, and refused to acknowledge. It is the anger you were told was unladylike, the vulnerability you were told was weak, the ambition you were told was selfish, the creative chaos you were told was messy,
The envy, the lust, the grief, all the beautifully, terrifyingly human parts of you that society, your family, or your religion labeled as unacceptable. We are taught from a young age to split ourselves in two. We present a good, acceptable persona to the world, and we banish the rest to the dungeons of our unconscious. But this psychic energy does not disappear. It festers, and often we project it outward. We project our denied perfection onto our heroes and our God, and we project our denied darkness onto our enemies and our devil. Your concept of God is a direct reflection of your relationship with your own shadow. If you have repressed your anger, you will likely create a God who is wrathful and punishing. If you have denied your own worth, you will create a God who demands constant sacrifice and prostration to prove your value. If you live in fear of your own sinful instincts, you will worship a God of rigid rules and harsh judgments. You are outsourcing your own inner conflict. You're not worshiping a divine being, you are locked in a conversation with the exiled parts of yourself. This is the uncomfortable truth. This is why, after years of prayer, you still feel empty. It's why your faith feels like a performance, a constant striving that never brings lasting peace. You are praying to a construct built from your own trauma. You are asking your wounds to heal your wounds. It is a closed loop, a hall of mirrors that can never lead you to a genuine encounter with the divine, because the very thing you're praying to is a defense mechanism designed to prevent you from looking at the one place where true healing can occur, within yourself. This is a form of spiritual avoidance. As Jung famously warned, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And what is more absurd than creating an all-powerful deity in the sky simply to avoid the terrifying, messy, glorious reality of the deity that lies dormant within? So, inevitably, a crisis comes. The scaffolding of the false god begins to creak. The prayers go unanswered one too many times. The suffering becomes too great to be explained away as a test. The silence becomes too loud to ignore. This is the moment of collapse, the death of the false god. It is a terrifying, disorienting experience. It can feel like the ground has vanished from beneath your feet. You may feel betrayed, lost, and utterly alone. This is often when people declare themselves atheists, throwing the entire concept of divinity away because the version they were sold turned out to be a lie. But abandoning the projected God without turning inward is simply trading one form of emptiness for another. The true journey begins in the rubble. It starts in that sacred, terrifying silence after the collapse. This silence is not the absence of God. It is the absence of the noise of your projections, your needs, your fears. For the first time, the line is clear. You are not praying to anything or anyone. You are simply here, alone. And it is in this stillness, this raw, unadorned emptiness, that something new can finally be heard. It is the call to what Jung termed individuation. This is the central task of a human life, the journey of becoming whole. It is not about becoming perfect, it is about becoming real. And becoming real means turning around and walking back into the dungeons of your own psyche. It means consciously and courageously meeting every part of yourself that you have abandoned. It is the sacred, painful work of integrating your shadow.
This is the path. You stop kneeling and begging for a savior, and you start standing and listening to yourself. You stop asking, God, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this pain, this anger, this grief here to show me? You stop trying to be good enough for an external judge and start trying to be honest enough with your internal reality. You realize that you don't need a God to save you from your shadow. You need to integrate your shadow to find the real God. The divine is not a force that erases the darkness. It is the force that is capable of holding both the darkness and the light in loving awareness. It is the wholeness that contains all the fractured pieces. As you begin this work, your understanding of divinity transforms. God is no longer a distant king on a throne. God becomes an experience. He is not a rescuer. He is the courage you find in the heart of your fear. He is not a reward. He is the quiet joy that blossoms when you allow yourself to feel it without guilt. He is not a test. He is the unwavering presence that walks with you through the fire of your own healing. He doesn't want your performance. He wants your presence. He doesn't want blind obedience. He wants your conscious, messy, beautiful participation in the miracle of your own becoming. And most of all, He doesn't speak through fear. He speaks through a truth that feels less like a command and more like a remembering. You didn't find God. You built Him when your father walked out, when your mother couldn't hold your pain. You built Him from need and from longing. And your God, in turn, became the one who stays, the one who forgives, the one who rescues. This isn't wrong. It's profoundly human. But the danger is that you're not relating to God. You're relating to your pain. The God you created was never God. He was your fear in disguise. And the moment you wake up to that, everything breaks. The system collapses because what you thought was holy was just a mirror. And in that brokenness, you might find yourself sitting in the rubble, whispering the most terrifying and liberating question of all. If that wasn't God, then who is? For the first time, there is no voice from the clouds, no thunder, no commandments, just you. And it hurts. Not because God is gone, but because for the first time, you are finally here. This collapse is the beginning of true individuation, because the real God isn't the one who fits inside your fear. He's the one who burns it down. You will feel lost. You will feel betrayed. But here's what else you will feel, perhaps for the very first time: freedom. Freedom from pretending, freedom from performing, freedom from begging for a love that was already inside you, buried under layers of shame. Now you just have to show up, fully, honestly, without apology. And that is the highest form of worship. The death of your false God is the birth of your real self. And ironically, it is only then, when you have embraced your own complete, imperfect humanity, that you become capable of knowing anything truly divine. Not because you read it in a book, but because it broke you open and called you inward. The version of God who only loves you when you're worthy was just your shadow dressed in holiness. To truly meet the divine, you must walk through your own hell, the hell of being abandoned, the hell of being unseen, the hell of feeling like a sinner just for being human. But when you walk through that fire, you don't come out clean, you come out real. And maybe that's all God ever wanted. You let the false God die, and for a while you feel nothing. No peace, no joy, just a vast, silent expanse. But then something happens. A quiet thought, a stillness so heavy it brings you to tears, not of pain, but of recognition. In that moment, you realized you were never truly alone. You were just disconnected from the one being who was always there.
Once you dismantle the God image built from trauma, you create the space to encounter what Jung called the self, the center of your being, where light and darkness live together in harmony. And that self is divine, not in a blasphemous, egoic way, but in the sense that the divine can finally be met not as a rescuer from outside, but as a mirror from within. You realize God isn't hiding. He is waiting in every part of you that you've been afraid to feel. He was never in the rules or the fear. That was just conditioning. He is in the tears you held back, the rage you buried, the joy you didn't believe you deserved. Now you are not losing faith. You are waking up. You understand that you don't need God to fix you because you were never broken. You need God to walk with you through the grief, through the rage, through the confusion, not above you, but within you. The real God doesn't demand that you shrink. He invites you to expand. You see it clearly now. God is not a rescuer. He is not a reward. He is the spark inside you that never went out, even when the world told you that you were too much, too broken, too unworthy. He is the moment you speak the truth you were never allowed to say. He is the tear you finally let fall. He is the boundary you finally set after a lifetime of silence. God is not what saves you from your shadow. God is what walks with you through it. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be holy. You just need to be real. And when you finally are, you will realize the most profound truth of all. You are not looking for God. God is looking through you. He was there every time you gave love when you had none left. He was there every time you held another's hand in their darkness. He was there every time you collapsed and still chose to try again. Not in judgment, but in presence. Not watching, but becoming. So no, the God you believed in doesn't exist. Not the one made of rules and shame. That was the version born from your wounds. What rises in his place is not a new religion. It is a new relationship with yourself, with truth, with every sacred, wounded, beautiful part of your being. You are not separate from God. You never were. The voice you longed to hear was your own. The peace you begged for was waiting in your body. And now you are ready to return to it. No more fear. No more chasing, because now you remember, God doesn't need to find you. He was waiting for you to find yourself. And this is not the end of your spiritual journey. This is where it truly begins.